If you want her alive, come to the address I'm sending you. No other person, just you. Line goes dead. He sets the phone on the table, straightens his jacket and looks at the window. The address arrives 30 seconds later. A warehouse in Mapo, 15 minutes from where he is standing. The voice was hers, the warmth of it, the low register, the way she breathes before she speaks. Whoever trained that woman did their homework, but she made one mistake. The real Amara is the only person in Seoul who has never once called him by his full name. This woman called him Jihan. He picks the phone back up. He dials Min. They have her, he says. This happened because 3 weeks ago he walked into a bakery in Hongdae because he needed somewhere quiet. My name is Seo Jihan. On paper, I am the chairman of Seo Group, real estate, logistics, but underneath the paper I run something else. I have been called brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. Every one of those things is true, but what no one knows is that I cannot recognize a single human face. Not my enemies, not my allies, not my own reflection. I built a system so airtight it never failed. Then I walked through a door on a Tuesday night, and everything I built started to come apart. If you're watching this for the first time, subscribe right now. This is not the kind of story you want to lose halfway through. Drop a like if you're already hooked. Now, 3 weeks earlier. Every morning, Min Tae-jun, his chief of staff, gives Jihan a briefing that has nothing to do with finances or logistics. Meeting at 9. His name is Kim Yong-soo. Glasses, speaks too fast when nervous. Park Seo-hyun, tall, favors his left walking. Jang Murray, new, young, pushes her chair back before she stands. You'll hear it. Jihan listens with his eyes on the window, earpiece tightly fastened to ear. Tonight, the Seo Foundation Gala. Ballroom, 300 capacity. Full guest list memorized. I'll be on your left the entire evening. How many from the other side? 3, disguised as donors. I'll mark them as they enter. Jihan nods once. Get detained. Min almost smiles. I never do. The Seo Foundation Annual Charity Gala. 800 million won raised last year. Politicians, ambassadors, money that has learned how to look quiet. And tonight, Kim Do-yeon, by your left, Min says hurriedly into his receiver. A woman approaches. Jihan turns at precisely the right moment, says her name with warmth he has practiced until it sounds like something real. She is pleased. She moves on. It goes like this for 2 hours. Names flowing into his ear like water. His body moving through the room with the ease people mistake for arrogance. Every handshake landed. Every name spoken before the person has to offer it. He appears to know everyone. He appears to see everything. The gap between appearance and reality is the architecture of his entire life. Then Min says, situation at the east entrance. Security is holding one of ours. Give me 4 minutes. Earpiece goes quiet, and the ballroom becomes what it actually is. 300 faces that mean absolutely nothing. He has lived inside this blur since he was old enough to understand that no one else saw the world this way. But in rooms like this one, without Min, it is just a blur. Then someone laughs too close to his right ear and his body locks for exactly half a second before he controls it. The earpiece crackles. Jihan exhales slowly through his nose, 4 minutes, and says quietly, I'm leaving in 20. The program runs another hour. 20 minutes, Min. He takes the east corridor, a maintenance passage, a side door. The cold hits him first. October in Seoul, he walks. Late at night, without Min, without the earpiece, without the weight of 300 meaningless faces. Just the city, which he knows the way other men know the backs of their hands. Hongdae is quiet on Tuesday nights. He passes bars, convenience stores, vendors packing up their carts. He turns down a side street and slows, light. Warm and yellow through a glass front, the sign above the door, Amara's, open late. The smell comes through the gap under the door, butter, cinnamon, fresh bread. His hand is on the door before he decides anything. She's behind the counter icing something, and she looks up when the door opens. Take a look at the case. I'll be with you in a second. Oven timer goes off. She sets the piping bag down, wipes her hands, and disappears through the kitchen door. 1 minute, I have an order to pack. She says. Jihan stands at the display case. The labels are small in the low light. Everything looks the same to him at this distance. a blur of shapes, golden brown, dusted white. He reaches in and takes the one closest to the front. He sits at the window table. He is halfway through it when she comes back through the kitchen door with a box under her arm, phone wedged between her ear and her shoulder. She stops. Her eyes go to the table, to the empty square of paper where something had been sitting. "Call you back," she says into the phone. She hangs up. She looks at Jihan. "Did you take that from the counter?" He looks at what is left in his hand. "Was it not for sale?" She opens her mouth, closes it. "That was a customer's order." She stops. She is looking at his neck. He watches her expression change. She moves fast, crossing the room, setting the box down, leaning toward him with the kind of focus that belongs in an emergency room. "What's happening to you?" He looks down. His forearms. The heat he felt earlier, he understands it now. Hives spreading up from his wrist, his throat tightening with the slow, unmistakable grip of something his body recognizes and hates. He gets it out in pieces. "Allergy, I'm reacting to something," he breathes. "I'm allergic to hot dog. I didn't know it was in there." She is already moving. Behind the counter, a drawer, a small bottle. She is back in front of him before he finishes the sentence. She shakes the tablet into her palm. Open. He takes it. She puts a glass of water in his hand and watches him drink it the way someone watches a situation they are not willing to lose. It is not fast enough. His vision goes soft at the edges. He is aware of her hand on his arm, her voice saying something he cannot fully track, and the world tilts sideways in the particular slow way of something that has already been decided. He passes out. He wakes up on a small bed in a room that smells like flour and cardboard and something faintly sweet. The ceiling is low, a bare bulb off, light coming under a door, warm yellow. He is covered with what appears to be an apron repurposed as a blanket. He is in a storage room, metal shelving on 2 walls, bags of flour stacked, a mini fridge in the corner humming to itself, and the bed small, practical, the kind of thing you keep when you work late enough to need it. He lies there for a moment and takes stock. His throat is clear. The hives have faded. His head is heavy, but his body is his again. He turns his head. She is in the chair beside the door, asleep. Her head is tilted back, arms crossed, still in her apron. Her breathing is slow and even. On the small table beside her, the bottle of cetirizine, a half-empty glass of water, and a phone with 3 missed calls from someone named Yemi. He looks at her for a moment and gets up slowly. He straightens his jacket. He finds a notepad on the shelf beside the door, the kind she probably uses for orders, and a pen. He writes 2 words, sets the note on the counter in the bakery, and goes out into the early morning. The city is just beginning. The light is thin and the air is cold, and he walks for a long time before he calls for the car. The note says, "Thank you, nothing else." She finds the note at 5:47 in the morning. She stands at the counter in her empty bakery and looks at it for a long time. Then she puts it in her apron pocket and turns the ovens on. No name. She doesn't know his name. Yeji asks her at noon why she keeps looking at the door. "I'm not," Amara says defensively. Yeji says nothing. She has worked here 8 months and has learned to leave certain things alone. He comes back on the 3rd night. She is closing up, the last tray cooling, the display case wiped down when the door opens. She looks up. He is in a different suit. Same stillness. He stops in the doorway the way he did before, taking the room in before he enters it, like a man who makes sure of exits. She looks at him for a moment. "Alive, then," she says. "Yes. You left before I woke up." He steps inside. "You stayed all night. You were unconscious in my storage room." She says it plainly. "What was I supposed to do, lock up and go home?" He looks at the counter. He looks at the spot where the note was. "Thank you wasn't enough," he says. "No," she says. "It wasn't." She picks up a cloth and wipes the counter that is already clean. "But you came back, so we'll call it even." She nods at the display case. "Sit down, I'll make tea. And this time tell me what you're ordering before you touch anything." He stays 2 hours. She is different with him tonight, not unfriendly, but more present, less accommodating. She had a full day to decide how she felt about what happened, and she has clearly decided to feel something specific about it. "You never told me your name," she says. "June," he says. She looks at him. He is looking at the window. "That's not your name," she says, a pause. "What makes you say that?" Because you said it the same way you said thank you. She tilts her head. Like something you prepared. He is quiet. It's fine, she says. Keep it for now, I'm Amara. She extends her hand across the counter. We can start there. He shakes it. Her grip is the same as the first time, firm, flower on her thumb, a hand that has been working all day and doesn't apologize for it. Where are you from? He says, Cape Town. A slight smile. You, Seoul, obviously. She pours more tea. What do you do, June? Who is not June that puts you on a Hongdae street at midnight in a suit like that? The careful kind of work. She looks at him over her cup. The careful kind of work, she repeats. Right. She goes back to closing up. He watches her move through the bakery, the particular weight of her right foot, the exhale before she makes a decision, the way she hums without finishing. He is cataloging again without meaning to. On her way past him, she stops and says without looking at him, Same time tomorrow. He had not planned to come back tomorrow. Yes, he says. He tells Min in the car on the way home. Min is quiet for longer than usual. She called the name false, Jihan says. She's perceptive. How much does she know? Nothing. She noticed I prepared the name, that's all. Min drives. The city moves past the window. After a while, he says, She sounds like someone who pays attention. Does. In our world, Min says, that is either very useful or very dangerous. Jihan looks at the window. Drive. As across the city in a glass office above the Han River, a man named Jin Muko is looking at photographs, a black car, a familiar profile stepping out. The same Hongdae side street, 3 nights running, he taps the photograph. Bakery, he says to the man beside him. Find out everything. He comes back every night that week. On the 4th night, she teaches him the display case by touch, weight, density, the give of the crust. She started it as a joke, the kind of practical humor that is also a test. Here, close your eyes. Tell me if this one is sweet or savory. He got it right 3 times in a row without hesitating, and she stopped laughing. On the 6th night, she drops a tray behind the counter, a loud clatter, sudden, and his head turns toward the sound before she has finished making it. She looks at him, he looks at the wall. On the 8th night, she is crossing the bakery with a rack of cooling bread, and he says, without looking up, You're carrying something heavy, right side. She stops. Adi sets the rack down. She comes and sits on the stool across from him and looks at him properly. You don't see faces, do you? She says. He is very still. Any faces? She says. None at all, he says. Since when? A long time. She takes that in. Right now, she says. Sitting here. You can't see me clearly. No, even a little. No, Aish, she says softly, not pity, something more honest than pity, the sound of someone genuinely receiving the weight of another person's world. It has a name, he says. Prosopagnosia. She repeats it quietly like she is learning a word in a new language. And no one knows. How do you? She stops. She thinks about the earpiece always fastened to his ear. She is quiet for a moment. She gets up, goes to the kitchen, and comes back with bread, plain, warm, torn, not sliced, and puts it between them. So how do you know who I am? She says. When I walk in, your right foot is heavier than the left. You exhale before you make a decision. When you're working through something, you hum 3 notes of the same phrase and never finish it. He pauses. And right now you smell like the cardamom you were using this afternoon. Bakery is very quiet. That's more than most people know about me, she says and tears a piece of bread. She chews. She looks at the window. For what it's worth, I've been carrying those 3 notes for 6 years and still haven't figured out how the song ends. Some things stay unfinished until they don't. He only hums and eats some bread, but he stays until 2 in the morning and the bread is gone, and outside the city does what it always does. Min puts a file on Jihan's desk on a Thursday. Dilamini, Amara Nakwanda. 25, South African national, long-term resident visa in Seoul, 3 years. She's a baker, owns the lease outright, 18 months paid in advance. 3 part-time employees, no record, no affiliations. Min sets it down. She has a cetirizine prescription, mild allergies. Jihan looks at the file but doesn't open it. She's clean, Min says. Min is quiet, then says, Your world might be too dangerous for her. She's not in my world, Min. Min picks up the file. He goes to the door. He stops. She is now, he says, whether or not either of you intended it. He leaves. Jihan goes to the bakery that night with one decision made. She is at the counter when he arrives, not baking, just sitting with tea and what looks like a supplier invoice, reading it with the particular frown of someone who has found a number they disagree with. She looks up at his face. "My name isn't June." He says. She sets the invoice down. "Seo Jihan," he says. The bakery is quiet. He waits for the shift, the recalibration he has seen 100 times when the name lands. Amara is still for a moment. Then she says, "How many people have you hurt?" He looks at the wall. "Enough," he says. She nods, slowly. "Don't lie to me again," she says, and picks up her invoice. He waits. She looks at a number on the invoice, circles it with her pen, and says without looking up, "You want tea?" "Yes," he says. She makes tea. He watches her move through the bakery, the same movements, the same weight, the same 3 unfinished notes under her breath, and something in his chest does something he hasn't had words for in a long time. When she sets the cup in front of him, she looks at him. "Seo Jihan," she says, trying the name out, giving it its full weight. "Okay," he says. "I knew you weren't just the careful kind of work." She sits. A man doesn't come back to a Hongdae bakery 11 nights in a row because his work is careful. He comes back because something here is the opposite of his work. She looks at him. "So, Seo Jihan, is that what this is?" The looks at the window. "Yes," he says. She nods once. "Then don't bring your work through my door," she says. "Anything else, you're welcome." He stays until she closes. When he stands to go, she calls after him. "Jihan," he stops. "Good night, Amara," he says. He steps out. The door closes. The city breathes around him. Min is at the end of the block. Jin Muko is a patient man. He built what he has by watching, by waiting for the moment when a man's armor develops a seam. For years he has watched Seo Jihan. Precise, contained, unreachable. No vice, no loyalty for sale, no pattern that doesn't serve a purpose until now 11 consecutive nights, his lieutenant says, setting down the report. Same bakery, same block. He walks from the Seo Group east side alone, no detail. Stays 2 to 3 hours, walks back. Jin Muko reads slowly. Woman, South African, baker. Clean, 3 years in Seoul. No connections to the network, ours, or anyone else's. Jin Muko taps the page. She has no idea who he is. Nothing in her background suggests it. He thinks about this. Earpiece, he says. How long? At least 8 years of documented sightings, without exception at every professional engagement. At the bakery, his lieutenant pauses. Never. He goes without it every time. Jin Muko leans back. A man who has worn an earpiece at every professional engagement for 8 years minimum. An assistant who never leaves his side in public. A man who controls every room he enters, who identifies people before they reach him. Who leaves through side doors when the assistant is delayed. And now this, a bakery alone, no system, every night. Jin Muko knows workarounds. He has built enough of them himself. Earpiece isn't a preference, he says. It's a requirement. His lieutenant is quiet. He can't do it without it, Jin Muko says. Whatever it is, whatever the system is compensating for, he physically cannot operate without it. He looks at the photograph of the Hongdae side street. Which means if we remove it, we can achieve our goal, and he doesn't finish the sentence. I want a test, he says. Send someone to the industry summit on Thursday. Someone Jihan has met before. Approach when Min is across the room. If he can't make the identification, Jin Muko looks at the photograph. Then we know exactly what we're working with, he says. The industry summit happens on a Thursday. Min is 12 feet away, occupied with a logistics contact, when a man approaches Jihan from the left. They have met before. 3 times. Min's briefing this morning, Choi Hyun-suk, 44, operations director. Raspy voice, scar tissue from a bad chest infection 20 years ago. Short sentences. Always smells like the same soap. The man who approaches has a smooth voice. Young, no roughness anywhere in it. Nothing has ever happened to it. He extends his hand. Seo Jihan SSI, Choi Hyun-suk. Good to see you again. Jihan shakes it. Something is wrong. He cannot clearly see the face, but the voice is off and the soap smell is wrong. Choi Hyun-suk smells like something clean and unscented. This man smells like cedarwood. He smiles. He keeps the conversation exactly where it should be. He says nothing that matters. He excuses himself after 3 minutes. He finds Min. Choi Hyun-suk, he says quietly. Where is he? Min scans. North wall, gray blazer. He's been there the last. Min stops. Someone approached you. From Jin Mucko. Confirm it. Across the room, Jin Mucko's man is already on his phone. He didn't make me, spoke for 3 minutes, gave nothing away. Jin Mucko receives the message. He reads it once. Reads it again. He sets his phone down and looks out at the Seoul skyline with the stillness of a man who has just found what he has been looking for.